In today's video, we're gonna talk about why in the architecture and design industry, some clients are not interested in paying top dollars for their visualization services. Hi guys, Fabio Palvelli here. I'm a designer and I'm one of the founders of the D2 conference in Vienna, the biggest conference about architecture visualization on the planet. I should really stop doing this. On this channel, every week I share a little bit of my life on video, as well as tips and tricks on how to lead a much more fulfilling, creative, and professional career. So if this is your first time here, please do consider subscribing. This question came up a few times in the past. Why some clients are simply not interested in spending more money for visualization services. Now, there is a base concept in marketing that says not all clients are the same and not all clients want the same thing. If you are an artist and an entrepreneur working in the service industry, like a visualizer, this is probably one of the most important concepts that you should learn and understand. Before we dive into it, an important consideration that we need to make is that architecture is a very slow-moving industry. And in terms of technological advancements, it is still 10 to 15 years behind, say, the car industry or the fashion industry. Yes, there are a few exceptions, but they're very few. Now, because of this, some clients still use 3D as a visual aid to understand their own projects. Maybe the images that they buy from you are only used for internal in-house communication. Then of course there are clients who work on competitions where they create designs with the hope to win a project. In some of these cases they have money to invest in proper marketing material and they understand the importance of doing so. In some other cases they just do the competition because they try to get everything that they can just to make ends meet. Some other clients instead are proper building developers that understand the concept that to make money you need to spend money and don't really have a problem investing a few $100,000 in visual marketing solutions. You also have to understand that clients often know business a lot better than artists do, and they know how to push you to get the most out of you whilst paying you very little money. Anyway, you as an artist and as a business person need to understand that it is your problem to define the type of client that you're dealing with and the type of work that you have to produce. And as a consequence, you have to adjust your prices, your offering, and your workflow accordingly. Now, many artists, they simply refuse to accept this and they try to run their business basing themselves purely on their abilities to create an image. Now, this is a very short-sighted and short-term solution. In my case, I have gathered enough experience to know more or less how much the minimum price for a visualization should be. But this is based, as I said, on my own ability and expertise and the quality of work that I can produce. My prices would be, of course, a lot lower than, say, Mir or D-Box, and I would find that acceptable because of all the things that I just mentioned. But they would be at the same time higher than the vast majority of artists out there that don't really understand pricing and just charge by guessing a number. Please understand that I'm not judging, nor am I looking down on you. In the beginning, I was also charging very little money and clients were taking advantage of me. Then I think I got smarter. I improved my skills and my abilities to manage a project and managing a client. You see, the thing is that you as an artist have to understand that you cannot cater for all markets with your services. Think of like Louis Vuitton and Benetton. Their offering is very similar in terms of content, but it is very different in terms of the value that they produce. Louis Vuitton can only cater for a higher end market, and Benetton, they can only cater for a lower mid-end market. Guess who makes more money? Louis Vuitton, of course. Guess who has more customers? Benetton. For Benetton to make $1 billion, it takes them a year. Louis Vuitton, they only need a little bit longer than a week. The interesting thing is that on the market, there are a lot more companies like Benetton than Louis Vuitton. In a way, it is easier to be Benetton than to be Louis Vuitton. And the same exact thing applies to the creative industry. The problem is that if you as an artist offer very high-end services at a lower price, you're basically working against yourself and against the market. And this process isn't really sustainable. Artists have a choice to make. What kind of work do you want to produce? Is it high-end, high quality work? Then you should get paid accordingly. Is it large volume / average quality work? Then make sure you can sustain this. Is it boutique type of work where you work closely with the designer and spend 60 hours a week on one single project? That's fine, but understand that your time is limited and you have to rely heavily on very few clients. You cannot target a lot of people. Understand what your market is and understand how you can leverage this. The reality is that we cannot all be D-Box and we cannot all be Mir. And we don't have to be. I'm not saying that you cannot become the next Mir or the next D-Box, but I am saying that their narrative and the way of working will be and should be a lot different from yours. You cannot force a narrative that doesn't fit you as a designer and as a business person. I know studios that make images for very little money compared to the big players, and they manage to produce a very high volume in a very short time. And that is because they rely more on executing what the client asks them to, and often their job consists of like 20 images or more, and they produce a couple of projects per month. That makes kind of sense from an economical point of view. Now, a little consideration, even there, you should not make the mistake to ask for too little money. I think that even if you focus on high volume work, right now in 2019, making a rendering for less than 500 euros is suicide, and feel free to quote me on that. A freelancer working on their own and at the right pace cannot lower their offering to less than 1,500 euros per image, and that is already scraping the bottom of the pan. A good creative agency charges for their services at least 2.5 3K per image, and that is not a made-up number. This is the result of what it costs to make a good image. This is the cost of running a real sustainable business, a business that is able over time to face both challenges and opportunities. There are firms that can charge 10K for one image because they can offer that kind of value. And the funny thing is that there are clients that will pay that. Otherwise, how do you explain them being in business? The beautiful thing is that market needs all sorts of artists and all sorts of clients. What the market doesn't need is people that improvise. I find it funny when online I read threads of artists that say that clients will not pay them more than 100 euros per image. That is such a paradox. That shows the lack of knowledge and understanding of what the job should be. And I know that this depends a lot from a country to another, but still, with the internet, we're more or less all connected. And the most common excuse that I hear is when artists say things like, yeah, but I got to put food on the table. What they really mean by that is that they have to feed their ego. Because if food on the table was the real priority, there are other ways to get a job and make money. I think as a community, we need to start taking responsibilities and realize that we are victims of our own policies when it comes to the type of performance that we offer. This might sound like an oversimplification to you, but if you look up any textbook about business and client management, you see that very often all you have to do to change the narrative with your client is to change your own policies. And that goes for pricing, it goes for timing, for the management side of things, for how you set a deadline. Now, obviously, you as a single artist will find a lot of friction with your existing clients going from, say, charging 100 to charging 1,000, as opposed to going from charging 900 to charging 1,000. But it is possible, just as it is possible to tell your client, stop sending me modifications throughout the project, wait for me to finish the image and then give me feedback, and everything else that you want me to change, you have to pay for. Same goes for asking for a deposit. You can ask to be paid 50% upfront before starting a job. If they don't, then you wait until your client pays you. Your client needs your images just as much as you need them to be your clients. So be smart and use this leverage in your favor. If a client comes to you with a request to make a rendering for 100 euros, Do not assume that it is your responsibility to having to do that job. And yes, I know what you're thinking. If I don't do that job, there will always be somebody that doesn't care about any of this. Somebody who will charge less and will not ask for a deposit and will play unfair and behave like a dishonest ass. The only antidote to that is that you keep on making great work and not care about the rest. Because the rest, well, the rest is just noise and speculation. Anyway, I think this is all I want to share with you today. I really hope you find these videos helpful. If you do, share them with your colleagues and get the conversation going. We can motivate positive change in our industry only if we support a positive conversation. These videos are meant to do that. So share them, get the conversation going, and I guess I'll see you next time.